Welcome to MZBC, the podcast for Tuesday, October the 10th, 2023, coming to you live from the on-air reclaim lair that Sandy hates the name of,
the back
from Mount Zion Studios.
Something like that. Sandy's like, what?
What is a lair? And why are we in one?
Right.
Welcome to the podcast.
What defines a lair?
What defines a lair? When I say reclaim lair, I honestly picture Batman in his lair.
That's exactly what I'm
Same?
thinking.
Okay.
I was thinking Batman.
I mean, that's literally the only person I know that you would put the word lair with.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
So when we came up with the reclaimed lair, it all came from Mike's classroom being, the name of his class was Reclaimed. And I love the idea behind it, like we are all reclaimed by God, and a cool idea. And so we originally started recording in his classroom, is why we called it the Reclaim Lair. And then I don't know where lair came from. I have no idea. I think it's just.
I think room is just too normal.
Yeah.
It's like.
And so bear with us. We're like working through the. You would think that turning on a computer and 3 microphones and hitting record should just be like turning on a computer and 3 microphones and hit record. But we've been here for probably 35 minutes just trying to get to this point. Yeah. And so hey, we're here now though, and it's awesome, and we appreciate your support. The last 2 episodes have been great. Relationships was really cool. We made a command decision in the room to go every other week just because, I mean, I feel like it's too much to take in. Yeah. Especially, this is going to sound terrible, especially taking in God stuff is too much. Like people.
I get what you mean.
Listen,
people are listening to this on their way to work. It's like, all right.
Yep. And
I listened to them Monday.
Yep.
And I heard them on Sunday.
Yep. Do I really need another
one?
So, I mean, every other week I think I'll give them a little bit of, oh man, I wonder when their podcast is coming out, and then it's out. The ones I listen to are garbage. They're not helping my life at all. Like
there's no. So you mean to tell us right now?
Yeah.
What you're listening to, there's no building in no part of your life.
I
think the golf one maybe.
Well, I mean the golf podcast.
I mean, most people listen to podcasts to self betterment. Spiritual, but some type of betterment.
Yeah, not this guy. I hear everything you're saying, and like you should be doing it. No, mine are fun, straight fun.
No problem. Okay.
Both podcasts I listen to are straight fun, and I'm not recommending either one of them because the language in them is atrocious, and I'm not recommending that. This is what I always say about language. Y'all can agree or disagree with me on this one. Same thing goes for rap music and all that. Mm-hmm. Is it okay to listen to and like whatever, as long as I don't like it doesn't determine the way I think, the way I talk, the way I'm not all of a sudden coming in here doing like, yo, what up? What we just say before we started? We said what was the word we were using right before we said? No, we did say lit. Yeah, it was lit in here before, but we said whatever. Sandy, we put the 2 words together, something. I don't remember, but
I forgot.
Yeah, already. So that was like,
wow. We're too. Hey, it's been a
long day.
It's been a rough 30 minutes.
So I listen to all that stuff. I don't think it impacts my life, and so I think that like I listen to those type of podcasts. In which literally the only thing bad about them is the language, and it is pretty bad sometimes. But it's not like I go, oh, that's a cool way to say that. I'm going to start saying that.
Right.
I'm like, I would never say that. Was it entertaining? A little bit. So I listened to 2 podcasts. One is about golf. Mm-hmm. I can't say the name of it because people said you shouldn't say that name in church. Whatever. It's about playing golf. So, but people don't like that. Okay. Makes people blush and do these things. I'm like, well, we're all adults in the room. Almost star, but
why'd you have to take a complete pause?
Well, I was looking at her because I wanted her to look at me like I'm not an adult, and I don't want her mom to be like, "What are you telling my daughter?" You would totally agree.
She wants to be an adult.
You want?
She wants to be. She's classified as an adult.
She's technically kind of an adult if you guys can't hear. Okay, I agree with that. Spiritually,
accepted.
Emotionally, maturity level. Yeah, I'd agree with all that. Yeah, I would say more than me. Sometimes.
At times, for sure.
So I listen to a golf podcast, and I listen to Part of My Take, which is associated with Barstool Sports, which people associate with a lot of things that are bad. But, I mean, to me, they're hilarious. Right. I don't know. They're hilarious to me. And so Part of My Take is all about football mainly. It's got some ex-NFL players on it, and they do all these things. And so I listen to those. I can take in 2 of those a week, But I think when it's this kind of stuff, I don't know that I could take 2 because, I mean, as I'm trying to process relationships, we're going to hit them with another one pretty quickly, and then it's like, you can't focus.
It's like, how can I process? You just talked about the church. How can I process?
It's all good, though. I have been getting comments from people. So in order to get a comment from somebody about the podcast, that means they had to have listened to it, which is good.
Thank you.
And most of the comments have been good. There hasn't been a bad one. It's all been good quality comments, like the sound this, the tweak that, there's a blurry spot right here. Yeah, we know. Okay.
Hey,
we're rookies at this, okay?
This is just a podcast. I mean, we're not Hollywood, okay?
Someone told me the other day, and I think it was a compliment. They're like, the reason I like your podcast is because it sounds just like regular people sitting in a room talking. I'm like, well,
that's
good.
exactly what it is. And we just so happen to press record.
That's good. So, Sandy, how was your week? Anything exciting?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, wow.
I mean, I just came back from Virginia.
How's
Last
that?
weekend. That was fun. Getting to see family. It's always good. Always nice.
Mm-hmm.
But a little bit of family drama. But we're not going to talk about that here because it's not a drama podcast.
Right. We're now talking about the podcast he listens to.
I told Sandy in staff meeting Tuesday, though, if you want to have a family drama podcast, her and I, we got it. We can rock it. Like,
totally.
Really?
We got content, baby.
But will your family agree with the podcast?
Well, they won't disagree
we won't
with
let them
it.
listen to it.
Yeah, I mean,
you got one saying won't disagree, one saying not going to let them listen to.
okay,
I don't know.
I don't know that I would encourage them to listen because it might hurt people's feelings, but I think that everything I would say would be a fact, and I think the same is true with Sandy from what she told me. But the thing is, no one wants. Do you want to hear truth?
Yeah, no one likes the truth.
Well, I was going to say, do you want to hear truth? No, no one wants to hear truth
Yeah.
unless you want to hear truth. So there's a big difference there. Like if you don't want to hear truth, like most of the world,
True.
then you might be offended. But yeah, so family drama is always fun.
Yes.
But you made it back safe.
But it was good. Yeah. The weekend was good. I don't remember the rest of the week. I was telling E-Man. I was like,
She was lit. She was lit.
She was obviously was lit.
I don't remember it. Except
Jet
for
lag still.
Except for currently, I have like this. I hurt myself. My neck and my back is like tweaked a little bit.
I think she's trying to call out for work.
In my back.
No,
It
I
sounds
was
like
here
she's
today.
calling out for
I
work.
was this
She was
close.
here.
I was this
Leading
close.
worship like.
Still, you know what? You were kind of stiff behind.
Yeah, you couldn't tell.
Every time she would look over to Katrina to play the guitar, it's like, it was good.
Make it till you make it, but we did it. But
Well, that's good.
Did it well too. I told you
Yeah.
that 2 of the songs you played today were 2 of my favorite songs that you didn't even know. So I always like when God does that. I always know what I'm preaching on. Obviously, I usually know what songs she's playing because she sends them throughout the week. But I rarely ever go look at them and like get in the mindset of she's about to sing this, I should say that, because I like to be in the moment of, whoa, she just sang that, and like I was about to say this anyways, and so I like when God does that.
Yeah.
She had me in tears this morning though, because that Amazing Love is really like one of the songs that when I first found Jesus, well, when Jesus first found me, he used that song.
It's crazy how you have Amazing Love. I'm sure everybody has their own song where it's like. I don't know. I think you said it maybe like last Sunday when you're in the car, you hear that song played. It's like, ooh, man. Ooh. I hope nobody's watching me at the red light because, boy, that one's speaking. So it's crazy how God works.
Yeah.
I mean, I think crazy is a bad word, but
he is doing exactly what he said he would do. And
right.
When you see it happening, you're like, oh, I see you doing your thing.
I see you, God. Okay.
Oh, look at that.
Yep.
So what else?
That was
new?
it.
That was it.
Nothing crazy happening.
No,
in the
what
week?
about you?
Well, for all of you that care about taxes, deadline is coming up.
We all have to care. I told you this morning.
You did.
Jesus said, if he said, pay your taxes, pay your taxes.
Please do. And make it easy for us accountants. Don't be a bad client. 1015 is no fun.
And
everybody's like, 1015, what is 1015? Yeah, taxes are still going on, and people are like, "Oh,
October 15th.
You're just the October. You're just tax guy. You only work January to April."
Yeah,
that's not true.
Yeah.
But I mean, work is work. I'm pushing to 1015, so thank God when that'll be over, I'll be able to enjoy life again.
These phrases like this, I'm pushing to 1015, like doesn't affect 99% of the world, but in E-Man's world, it's so important.
It is so important. I mean, to those of you out there, like, who cares about 1015? It's just another day in October. I'm like, 1015 is like, I'm celebrating. We're having a party at work.
Nice.
It's gonna be a great. Well, 1015.
Well, you're not.
That's
it's
a
Sunday.
Saturday. That's a Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, but the Monday after
the 16th.
The 6th. Oh,
it's
man,
on.
It's on. That 17th. They already sent the invite on Teams.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Wonderful.
It's like seeing the finish line of literally a year-long thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, being it my first time, it's like, oh wow, this is a lot. Now backtrack is like, man, do I really want to do this as a career? Yes,
Yeah.
but I've had that. Do I really want to do that?
Of course you have, because your pastor has been praying every day, like, well, God, will you just show E-Man that that's not where he's called? God, will you just show Emmanuel that where he's called is to be here on staff with me? And all those times you're feeling like, is this it? That's God going.
That's God saying,
Pastor
hey.
Russell's praying for you again.
Pastor Russell's throwing one up.
I joke around with you. I don't ever want to put pressure on you, but I think that. That's just in my heart, though. You know, that's the only thing because I've seen you since you were like 10 or 11, maybe.
Yeah.
And I could see that transformation happening. And honestly, I could picture us working together, so that's even better.
Yeah.
It's hard to work with people, right, Sandy?
Yeah.
Just in general.
I know.
Like, luckily, Sandy and I are pretty easy-go-lucky kind of people, and so you can't sometimes. Yeah, well, that's a fact.
Uh-oh.
Well,
I feel like are we bringing our workplace drama? We said no at-home drama.
We never have drama at work. Not
No.
between Sandy and I, or I would say between anyone. us. Yeah, there's not really drama.
I don't know that youth group over there.
Yeah,
That D and Kim's kid.
We're blessed, staff-wise, even leadership-wise, just normal people. We're pretty united in most things. I never really have ran into anyone going against the grain on anything, so we're blessed in that regard. So, but Sandy and I are pretty easy-go-lucky, except on moments when you catch us when we're not. And then you do not want to cross either one of us.
Nope.
I've seen Sandy in her mode where don't cross me, and I would not cross her. And I don't
is
know
it
that.
Like, that's not Sandy right there. That's
Yeah. When you sense it, you're like, okay, back off.
Okay.
Just you know how Star looked at us when we said what we said a minute ago? That look is Sandy. Like,
Got you.
Yeah, and so
Sweet.
So that was cool. What's been going on with me? This has been a really
what's new in your week?
chill week.
Pastor Appreciation Day.
My daughter came home for
By the way.
the first time, second time since she went away to school for fall break. That was cool. We've just been hanging out.
These college kids get fall break.
College kids get fall break. That's this week. I don't know.
That's so unique to me.
She goes back like on Tuesday. So that's been going well. She's been hanging out at home, and she doesn't have a class all week. So she's going back on Tuesday just to go back. She has class like Wednesday and Thursday. She's off every Friday. She planned her schedule nice. So she has she has a 3-day weekend every weekend, and
Enjoy
she doesn't
it while
work
you
her
can.
job. So that's kind of cool. That's been going on. Honestly, I got to play golf this week. Didn't lose to my son because he didn't play with us, but
Wait. Because he didn't play.
because he didn't play. Yeah. if he would have played, I would have lost.
So is pupil passing master?
Oh yeah, bro. He's got me. He's Told you this a couple weeks ago.
I thought you were like,
No,
he's coming up there.
Nah,
Like he surpassed.
He's 5 strokes better than me most of the times we play.
Wow.
It's
Good
just
for him.
because
I
he's
mean,
15 years old and his arms can bend back like
He's got more
around his body
flexibility.
and
Got
like
more
swing the
flexibility.
golf club, and mine stopped like here. I have no. And he's like wrapping them all the way around.
Yeah. So he's wound up like a
It is
spring.
what it
and you're
is.
Like,
So all that's been good. We're wrapped up a new Bible study or an old Bible study on Wednesday night, and we're going to start a new one on prayer coming up. Honestly, personal reasons. I just wanted to dig into prayer and figure out more about it. Like, I think it's one of the hardest things to do, but one of the most important things we do as Christians is communicate with God, and prayer. I saw you had it on your notes, and so it's going to be one of those things. And so I wanted us to focus on it. What does the Bible say about it? How do we do it? And I think what propelled me to it or pushed me to it is I've been reading this book about praying through the Psalms, and it's been really cool. Like doing it as you read a verse and then pray whatever God puts on your heart. You'd be amazed at how not boring your prayers are whenever you're kind of like following that.
Right.
It's not like, God, thank you for today, bless this. But it's the same old stuff you say.
not
This one,
mundane.
like, you're praying in relation to what the words were in that scripture. And so it's kind of cool how God used that in my life. And so I want us to do that. I don't know. I just want us to, that Wednesday night group, it's like preaching to the choir. You've heard that saying before? Mm. They know Jesus. Like, it's not, you come to a Wednesday night Bible study, you're not looking for Jesus. You found him.
You know where he is.
You're trying to grow closer to him. And so you can't really focus on salvation and all that. We all have it.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, we just finished one on the heart of God. And I think everyone in there could have taught that class. Like, God's heart is holy. God's heart is merciful. God's heart is great. We know that. Like, we're part of that. And so it's like, okay, what is the next step? Like, to get us to whatever it is that helps draw people into this. And so that's always the challenge I'm looking for on Wednesday nights and Bible studies and different things. And so that's where we are. As a church, it's good. God is providing, and we're rocking and rolling. And so we've done the church. What is it? Why should we be a part? We've done relationships. Like, once you get into church, you start forming these relationships. And people, it's hard sometimes. It's easy sometimes. It's all good, though. And then we got to this topic today, which is hearing from God. And that's a really tough question, because how do you know that you're hearing from God? I think one of the questions we put out there was, how do I know that it's God I'm hearing and not my own voice? And so I don't know who's supposed to start today, if it's Eman or Sandy, but we could start with Emmanuel since you have your notes. If you were to tell someone, I guess, how do you hear from God? Like, how have you personally heard from God in your life? Or what would you say to the person that's like, look, I don't know what direction my life's going. How do I know what God wants me to do?
I think when it comes to like hearing from God, it's very situational. I think sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's a smack in the face. I think the easiest way, obviously, say hearing from God is through His Word. Being in, like you just said, constant prayer, reading His Word. You got to know who God is in order to hear Him. It's hard to. It's like trying to get instructions without the teacher telling you the instructions, basically. But in order for, in my opinion, to hear from God, you have to be able to quiet that inner you. And it's already hard for Christians to do it. I already know for non-Christian believers, it's quiet an inner you to listen to somebody who, in your head, is like, okay, God, how's it? I'm supposed to hear from Him? It's a big thing to do. But as far as like going and say, hey, E, that's not right. All right, you probably sit down and be quiet. I know me. I ain't gonna say. I'm gonna battle with myself and say, hey, let me figure it out. But in fact, through prayer, I believe you can find every answer.
So when God speaks, just like, Emmanuel, I want you to go.
No, and I think that as a young Christian, I was like, God, all the movies, you blinded Saul.
Sound like
You know what I mean, like you showed up big, and now it's like 2023. Hey, God, you ain't showing up so big. But I think it's like that's not the case. I think it's different. We say, oh, I still believe in God doing miracles. It just doesn't look like turning blind to see, blind to water. It doesn't look like it did in the.
Now, if you turn the blind to water,
now that would be something.
That would be something.
That would be puddle. That would be so hilarious. That would be. Hey,
God, quit playing. You know you're joking now.
And now you playing with me right there. But
you had that one mixed up with God. That was supposed to be wine.
Right, wine to water.
That's good.
Blind man.
I get it. Yeah.
See. But in 2023, I do think He still does miracles. I do. It just doesn't look like. Maybe, to us, it doesn't look like that. It could be as simple as I had cancer. I'm cancer free. I went through the treatment of whatever it may be, but because of God, the miracle, God working miracles, all the doctors said, hey, well, cancer does what cancer does. God clears it all. That's a miracle. Yeah. But as far as listening, I mean, you have to be in constant communication with the Father in order to hear from Him. And no, sometimes it ain't bullhorn in your ear. Sometimes it's as little as a whisper. And I think that's where that whisper is where you have to be, okay, maybe I need to be quiet and actually listen. And that's hard to do.
I get what you mean, because like sometimes like I don't hear from God until after I've done the thing.
After you tried it.
Like even today, I have a perfect example. I was like, it was right before worship, and sometimes I like to just have my own little alone time right before I go up on stage and play and sing and stuff. I just like to have a minute for myself and just pray and ask God, what do you want to do? What's gonna happen? This and this and this. So today I did just that, and I was like thinking, I was like, I don't usually talk much up there. I just sing, and sometimes I just want to add a little something to it and maybe speak about something. And usually it's like if I'm going through something, I have something to speak about. Yeah. But I wasn't going through anything, and then I was like, I don't want to always have to rely on me having a bad time or a bad day to speak about something. Right. And so I was like, God, what do you want me to say up there? And I was just praying, and I was reading, and I was waiting for an answer before I had to go on stage, and nothing was coming. And I was like, okay. And then I shared a little bit with Noel. I was like, I'm just sitting here trying to like listen to God. What does He want me to say up there? And I'm not getting an answer, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so he was like, he was looking at the list of the songs. He was like, just let the song speak for itself. I was like, yeah, I know. I guess I can do that. I mean, I usually do, but it's like sometimes you just
you want to hear.
You want to say a little something to get the congregation to like really listen. Yeah. And so nothing came to mind. Then I just like, okay, I'm gonna go up there, do the thing, and we did it. And I didn't speak. And then it wasn't until Pastor Russell went up there after the worship set, and he was crying, And I was like, mission accomplished. My mission every week is to make Pastor
was
Russell
that
cry. It's personal.
every week?
It's personal.
Hey,
Every
well,
week?
Nah.
I set the bar low though, bro, because I cry easily.
Right. But every week, that's messed up.
And I know this. I know that's her goal.
Wow.
And like I try to not.
That's
cry.
so devious, Andy.
I love it though, 'cause I think it's devious, but I think she's like she knows that I'm sentimental like that, so she's trying to pull my heartstrings.
Yeah, that's
But
cool.
that's besides the point.
Yeah.
So like when he said he was like crying and he was like the words really spoke to me, the song, the lyrics, and everything, and
Oh, wow.
I was like,
Look at
okay. And then I went to Noel afterwards. I was like, did you hear what Pastor Russell said on stage? And then Noel was like, yeah, I cried back here because it was literally what we were just talking about. I was like,
Yeah.
see, like, I didn't hear from God in that moment. I was praying, but then after it happened, I was like, okay, I guess all I have to do is obey and do, and that's it. But
Interesting thought there. I was hoping that I had something positive and not negative to go to say something. I feel her on that though. Like
That's
so many
true,
times our examples, okay, what went bad this week? And I
That
can say
I can-
how God took care of me.
Yeah.
Instead of like, let me think, nothing bad happened, so God must have been protecting me all over
Exactly,
the place. Like
yeah,
when you
true.
said, how'd your week go? Pretty, like nothing happened. If I really dug down into it, there were probably 1,000 things God protected me from, led me to, guided me around, or in. I don't know. It all just worked perfect. And I'm like, well, my week was great. Yeah, God did a lot of cool things.
Yeah,
Like,
facts. That's true. I mean, I think we, like you said, we get so caught up in what goes wrong in our life as opposed to
yeah.
nothing went wrong today.
And I feel odd sometimes. I'm in places, and this sounds, I don't know if it sounds braggy or I'm not trying to be prideful or anything like that. I go to places and I meet with other pastors and do different things. And when they start voicing like what's going on in their churches
Right.
and
Yeah.
battles they're having with deacons or conversations they're having with church members, I just sit back and I'm like,
Not my problem.
not
Not going through that here.
I ain't got none of that.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
everybody, so no one tells me they don't like me.
Right,
You
right.
know, all the deacons have got my back, I think, and like all these things. So
Yeah,
God, I'm
that's-
good. You know, he is so good to us, and we're like in this really cool yet really terrifying spot of he is providing and he does do, and there are all these amazing things happening around us, and it's really cool. And in the midst of that, we're just dead broke.
Yeah.
And we're just like, we can't do, like for instance, there was a person this morning that came, a transient person, I guess is the right way to say it. And I don't have anything to offer that person, like physically. I don't have any money or this or that. And so it looks like we do, though, when you walk in our doors.
Yeah.
Like you see
I
the
mean,
podcast, you're like, oh, they got a
like,
whole
they
studio
they
there
gotta go
recording.
up there in the lair.
They literally don't know it's a room with an iPhone on a stand.
They don't know what's back there.
Yeah.
It's like, they don't,
So,
it's not an iPhone.
it's what
are you
God
talking
is. I'm talking about that Sony camera back there. What am I
Right,
talking
come
about?
on
High def. God doing amazing things
Yeah.
with just like this little 5 fish and some loaves of bread, and He's doing that in our midst. Like He's doing that amongst us. So I think that hearing God speak, like God is constantly speaking to us. How did you know? Like, what is something God has told you to do? How did you know that God told you to go to Savannah State? How did you know that God told you to be an accountant? Like, He didn't say, Emmanuel, go to. How did He do it?
That's a good question, actually. I think in ideas how God spoke to you and you listened. I think it was more so God spoke to me and I was like, yep, not quite. Good idea, God. Not ready for that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, those that know me, I like basketball. I didn't have I'm not gonna say not necessarily dream to play ball in college.
It was a passion, though.
But it was a passion, and it
Yeah.
was like, well, I mean, if this will pay for education, why
Yeah.
not let this pay for education and forget about trying to do the educational side and just focus on basketball? But I think after several situations of just realizing, well, and then having real life conversation, realizing that, I mean, those that play basketball, 1% chance, and that's 0.1%
Yeah,
chance.
of course, yeah.
But I think after realizing, okay, well, this ain't the way to go. This ain't the way to go. And God kept saying.
So then God spoke through trial and error with
Right,
you.
exactly.
Like
And then on top of that, it's like, I know for all the college those high school students that are ready to go to college, applying to college, it's like, oh, I applied this college. This is my dream school. And then you get that denial. It's like, well, this sucks, God, now what? It's like, and then you just like, you see your friends get acceptance letters. Oh, I apply. And then you get, well, let me apply to my third choice or my fourth or fifth choice. Then you get accepted. It's like, okay, well, I feel good about it. It's like, not exactly where I want to go. And I guess in my head, I didn't get the deny letter. I just didn't hear a response. And I think I found that because I'll just explain the story. It was up between Savannah State and FAMU, where my brother graduated from. And
well, he was Mr. FAMU actually.
FAMU,
so I mean, he didn't just go there.
Excuse me.
He was the man there. And he had big shoes to fill. God
God
may have spoke through that.
I'm going to get to that too. So I mean, that was the option, and I mean, I applied to both schools, visited both schools, and came to a point where it was like, okay, hey, acceptance letters started to come in. It's time to make a decision. I got Savannah State's acceptance. All right, cool. Now let me wait.
Yeah.
Didn't June.
Yeah.
I mean, I graduated. I'm like, all right, still nothing for FAMU. All right, at this point, we're in the summer. I got to make a decision. All right, and by then I'm like, okay, well, obviously, God, you want me to go here because I have no other acceptance letter on any table. So trial and error. This is here, and finally made the decision, accepted, and then long story short, I finally get a letter. Hey, you didn't get accepted. Well, thanks, FAMU. I done already accepted, and I've got my class schedule. So
class next
and
week.
I'm already way comfortable, and I just feel like that delayed response was just the solidification that I needed. It was like, hey,
yeah,
I got you. Well, God saying, hey, I got you. You already said in your head you tired of being Randall's little brother. Why would you go back to? Why would you came from high school with him?
Yeah.
Why would you go? Why would you do that to yourself? In my head, I'm like, well, my brother went there. I mean, it might be easier,
right?
But he's like, I was able to grow way more outside of my brother's shadow than I would be
for sure.
what I've done at FAMU.
That's good. So sometimes the answer is no answer.
Exactly, and that is probably the hard limbo. I think it's like, okay, well, I feel like this is the answer, and sometimes it's just flesh pulling you that way.
Yeah,
and then it's like that egg on your face failed. That was wrong. Now you know. And it's like, okay, God, waiting for an answer.
Yeah.
Still
so
no
Sandy,
answer.
you kind of broke in 2 weeks ago when you were talking about the church and the Cambodian church you guys were a part of before you came to Mount Zion, and COVID happened, and then the pastor passed away, and you guys were kind of in limbo, like, what do we do? And you had relationships with people here, and so you started coming to Mount Zion, and then we ended up finding out that you're a worship leader. We met and talked. After, when all that was happening, how did you know that God was saying, yeah, that's where you should be?
Like he said, that's a hard question because it's like it's not necessarily something you hear. You don't hear, yes, this is.
I wish you did.
I wish. Back in the Old Testaments,
I'm telling you, light come down blind. I'm hearing from you guys. You got all my attention.
Yes, so it wasn't like a voice, and I don't think I've ever recalled a time where I actually hear God's voice. You know, sometimes people say I heard it through a dream or through something, but I don't think I've ever experienced that. But it's just more of like a circumstance and like a feeling. It's like just all of the circumstances that happened within that situation that we were in. Like when we went to a different church and tried it out and it didn't feel like this was it. We tried another one, didn't feel. And then when we came here, it was like, you just kind of just know. It's like, you know, when you marry someone and then they say, how did you know that they were the one?
Yeah.
You just know. It sounds cliche, but you just know. And I think once you know God's heart, that's how you know. Like the closer you are to like understanding God's character, and if the things that you like hear from him align with his character, then it's got to be God, right? Like what else can it be? And I just like, for me, how I hear from God, it kind of, when I was studying this, I was like, went to the book of Samuel for 1 Samuel, and it reminds me of Samuel's story of like how he was like, he heard God's voice saying, Samuel, Samuel, and then he was like, hello, and he thought it was like his Eli, the priest guy, but Eli was like, that's not me. And then he heard it like 3 times, and then after like the 3rd time, he hears it again, and then Eli was like, I think it's the Lord talking to you. Answer with like, Here I am, Lord. What do you want from me? And so that's when God kind of gave his will, like he told Samuel to do the thing. Yeah. And it's like, you kind of have to give your heart to the Lord before you can hear from God. And I think that's the first step of hearing from God. It's like, you can't hear from him if you don't know him. You can't hear from him if you don't give yourself to him. Exactly. And like, even with Samuel, I think he was like a boy, not even like old yet, but he was always in the church. He served with Eli and stuff, and his mom like promised to God that he's gonna be a part of it, dedicated this, and it was, I think at that moment was when he kind of just said it for himself out loud, that here I am, Lord, and he finally kind of just recognizing that God is God.
Because Samuel was the one whose mom prayed for him like forever, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you'll just give me a child, I'll give him back to you and all these things. And so his relationship with God began even back
before he was born.
He was even
like
born,
before he was even there. God, before you were even here, your mama already promised you the service.
For real.
Well, I'm sorry, son. By the way, you got to go to work in the morning.
I'm going to tell you got to work in church all your life. So I kind of made that promise to God. Yeah, so she started that process back there. So you're right. Step one is knowing God. Because even without knowing God and knowing the fact that I always say, God's always pursuing you, whether you're trying to pursue him or not. He's always pursuing humanity and giving options and opportunities for you to acknowledge that he's making it happen and that this happened for a reason, or that, life just happened. And then either you acknowledge it or you don't. And so, you acknowledge it. And then I agree. I don't know how the marriage one is a great one. People always ask me, how did I know Heather was the one that I was? We've been married for 24 years, going on 25. And I would say 24 of those, Heather would probably stay with me. One of them, maybe a rough one. I don't know. The first one, I have no idea.
Give it a 1% chance.
But how did I know? And I don't know how to explain that either, because I just knew. Like in the Army, when I met her, I just knew. Like, I don't know how to explain.
Was it love at first sight?
For me, well, she'll tell you for first sight with her, I was like, her last name is Ditmar, maiden name. And I was like, hey, what's up, Ditmar? Because in the Army, everyone calls people by their last name. No response. Not like, hey, what's up? Like, oh, how are you? I've never met you before. Good to meet you. Nah, just like a look and moved on. Like, why are you talking to me? She'll admit that to this day. Yeah, because she was like, I don't know who you were. Like, why are you saying my name? I'm like, oh, it was on your uniform. Right. But I didn't know. So I didn't know in that moment that 25 years later we'd be together. But I did feel something in that moment. And we started dating and all these things. And then, very shortly after that, we were married. And now it's 24 years later. So obviously it was the right person. I just knew. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I just knew. So God obviously had orchestrated that whole thing to be at that peace with such a big decision. But God, I didn't hear him. I've never heard his voice audibly. But like you said in the Old Testament, I mean, Moses was just strolling along and then boom.
Burning
Moses. Whoa. Yeah. Hey, you go do this. And then Elijah, I mean, was running from, what's her name? The lady he was running from?
It's a long name.
Man, I can't think of it now. Someone out there knows it. Starts with a D, maybe?
Yeah.
I want to say Delilah, but that's
not
it.
It's not Delilah. It's not.
Jezebel. There you go.
Thank you, producer.
D, nowhere around. The adult in the room. Thank you.
Right.
Right. So Elijah, right? He was the one running from her?
Yeah.
Like literally after he just fought the prophets of Baal, 400 of them, one of him, God strike down this altar and burn it up so they'll know you're powerful, and they did. And then on the heels of that, she's like, I'm coming after you. And he's like, I'm running.
I'm out of
here. And so he just runs. And then when he's in the hills, in the mountains, God provides the food and does all that. But then the scriptures, paraphrasing, say that sometimes God doesn't come in the loud, the windstorm or the thunderstorm or the this or the. Sometimes he comes in that quiet whisper. And I think that is how God speaks to me the most. I think you can get to it in a second. In your notes, you wrote down dreams.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever had a dream and God told me something to do. That would be trippy. I wake up like, I know what to do. That would be so awesome. I haven't had that happen. Mine more or less come through whispers, like God saying, hey, have you tried this? Hey, I know you don't want to do this, but hey, why don't you just go try that? And I'll go do it, and okay. Like Sandy said, I wanted to say something or I wanted to do this, but God, you told me not to. You told me to do this, and then it always works out perfect.
Yeah.
And so I hear God through those whispers, through being in His Word. Do you ever hear from God through people?
Yeah.
For instance,
I definitely believe God puts people in your life at certain times. In certain times of your life, to teach, maybe sometimes left as lessons. I tell my friends all the time, people come to your life for one of three reasons: lifetime reason or a season. I mean, and it's hard to, and if you get those lifetime reason, season.
Yeah.
If you get those,
I've only ever heard a reason or a season. I never heard the lifetime one before, so I like that. That's better.
Got it off a movie.
Lifetime movie?
Actually, it wasn't. It was a BET movie, actually.
Okay.
Medea, actually. Anyway, those three reasons they come to, and I think we get it mixed up when we start getting lifetime expectations with seasonal people when they're all they were supposed to do is teach you a specific lesson. So to answer your question, do you hear from God through people? Yeah. I mean, good example. It wasn't for me, but I don't know if I remember telling the situation when I first went off to college. I told conversation spewed about why I need to believe in God. Had nothing to do with the young man who was asking. I think it was more so, hey, are you solidified in your faith? Because you're no longer protected by Creekside four walls and mom and dad four walls. You're out here by yourself where you at. So I think in that situation, God brought those people. And quite frankly, I never saw those guys again.
Yeah.
I saw those one night, and never again saw them throughout 4 years of college. So I genuinely do believe in situations, sometimes it's a person. God is telling me, hey, it's not necessarily looks like, oh, God, this is God. I hate to say it, make it sound like that, but this is God sent more so.
Yeah.
So I do believe.
Sandy, has a person ever impacted you in that way? Like you think that God sent them? Like I know for a fact, for me, I'll come back when the Wednesday night after the Friday that Pastor Chris resigned, I quit. Like I did. I met with Lamar and Terry, and I was done.
Yeah.
Like that was my last day at Mount Zion, and I told them tomorrow I'll come get my stuff, and I don't know what's next. We'll figure it out. And I walked to the parking lot from the building to another building, and Jordan Gibbs was right there, and he was like, "Are you going to leave for real?" And I was like, "Dude, yes. I don't want to be the pastor. Like that's not my calling." Little did I know that was what God said. Dude, me and Jordan sat in that car for an hour, and he told me all the reasons why it wasn't my decision. Why, if God ordained it, we walked away from there going, okay, like, I'll try.
Yeah.
And so the next day, I went back and met with Lamar and Terry again and said, you know what? I'm going to try. And they were like, but what happened in, like, the last 8 hours? And that's the only thing. And so, yeah, I definitely believe God speaks to people because I know. Well, I don't know. I feel I wouldn't be the pastor of Mount Zion if God wouldn't have spoke through that person. I would have walked away, and I would have been missing a huge blessing.
Yeah.
But my human side would have said too much. Like, I don't want that. And I mean, do I want it right now? Not really. But is God calling me and I'm doing it? Okay. I mean, that's life, though, right? Like, do you always want to do everything that's good and you have to do? No, but God calls you and you do it and you grind out and all those things. So, definitely. A person ever impacted you in such a way?
I just realized, are those hard glasses?
Yes, they are.
Nice. Sorry.
Spreading love everywhere, man.
Right.
You didn't notice on the logo? What's going on
man.
there?
Wow.
you
I really didn't notice it. Wow. Okay.
Detailed.
Sorry.
Anyways, that is one of those questions I have to sit and think.
Yeah. Probably.
But I'm sure there have been
Yeah.
people who've impacted my life. But like recently, I guess, we're doing this like book club with our group, with the ladies in our group, and we're doing like a prayer partner accountability type of thing. And me and Katrina, you guys know Katrina, the girl on stage playing guitar, we were partner up the first time, and I was like, okay, cool, God is doing something, because I was trying to get Katrina, like, she just joined the church, trying to get her more involved in serving and stuff, because I know she also did worship at one point in her life. And so I was like, okay, we're paired up together for a reason. There's something here. And so we got together and talked about it, and she shared a bit about stuff and got her to join the band, and she's playing guitar now. And now this is the second time we're doing this prayer partner, and me and her got paired again. It's like a random generation.
Is this random?
It's a random generator. And so we got put together again, and me and Katrina were both joking. We're like, God's not done with whatever he's doing yet, so I guess we're partners
still
again.
Brewing in there.
I love that.
So
awesome.
like working through people, of course he's always going to do that. And even with like pastor up on stage, sometimes he says stuff that like you didn't even tell him, but you're going through, and you're just like, I guess
I saw a meme the other day where someone was like at their house, and they were like ripping the cushions off the couch and moving everything around. Like, I'm looking for cameras and microphones because that sermon was way too close to home. Like, just joking spying on us.
Yeah.
What's crazy about that, and what's odd, I mean, I hate to be negative, because a lot of people take that and be like, man, he's talking about me.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like, that's not true. God is working at that point. But a lot of people, I've heard it.
Dude,
like,
I've literally had people come to the office.
You talking about me on that? Like, no.
People have came to my office and said, yesterday when you said this, were you talking about me? And I'm like, no.
And that goes to tell you if the boot fits.
And I'll be like, I didn't even know you were going through
it.
that. Like, how would I even know that? And they're like, oh, well, I guess it was just God. Yeah.
Well, and you told on yourself.
Yeah.
On top of that. Because I didn't know it was
I love when people do tell on themselves with me because they think I know everything. I guess me and God are so tight. I know everything. They'll be like, and you probably know this is going on. I'm like, I didn't.
I do now. Thank you for that knowledge.
Thank you. So, yes, God speaks through his word, no doubt. God speaks through his people, bringing them into your life situations. What else do you have ways that...
worship. I mean, I think God
that
speaks.
Was a fact what she just said. Yeah, I mean, worship.
You brought up dreams. I
only brought up dreams because I saw in your paper. I would have never said dreams.
The only reason I have dreams on here is because of how they broke it down.
But God did come to like Nebuchadnezzar and people and said like, what does this mean? And then Daniel broke it down.
But I mean, the reason I said I've left it on there is because I think we get out of the mindset that God doesn't do it. So it's like we don't even go in here. What it's written, he said, "Do you ever go to bed and be like, God, speak to me through a dream or whatever it be?" I know I have it.
Yeah,
and it's he's done it.
Yeah,
and he can do it, but you have
That's
not because you asked not.
I've never prayed that. God, speak to me tonight through my dreams. Wow,
it's an odd prayer.
I'm scared. I don't want to.
Good morning, Russ. Pinch myself. Was this a dream?
On the topic of dreams, don't you think that like that is the? I hear people on this podcast I listen to. Dreams are like the weirdest thing because like I'm 45 now. Mm-hmm. And I can still get tricked into thinking a dream was real.
Yeah.
Like, and you think at this time, you're like, oh, that was just a dream. I already know that. But you'll wake up and like, wait.
That feels so real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dreams are trippy.
They really are. Because, I mean, have you ever had a dream where it's like, it's so real? You woke up scared,
dude,
sweaty.
Listen,
like,
I've woke up
all the time.
I've woke up mad at Heather before because of dreams. And she's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, well, hold on. That was just a dream. Never mind. Okay. No, we're good.
That is so sick. but I mean, in all seriousness, I do think, like I said earlier, God is still in the miracle business. I do think he still wants to and is capable of talking to you in any form or fashion, just as simple as a dream.
Yeah.
And although, like you said, we may not remember the dream, we don't, because I forgot the statistics. People do dream, and I think it's like 2% of the dreams you actually remember. And it's always the dreams that probably like 5 seconds, or feels like 5 seconds, but if they're impactful, and now it's like deja vu because it was a dream.
Yeah.
And God, in my opinion, I think still can do that, but it requires an opportunity. Hey, God, speak to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you're gonna do it. Going to bed tonight. Don't freak me out, please. But
you know how sometimes when you dream of the thing you just kind of thought about like the night before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
So this jumps into the next question. How do we discern like that's God's voice or it's from ourself because we just thought about it? How do you distinguish that?
I think it's like anything in life. For us, God set the standard, but the only way I know the standard is by being in his word. Yeah. Like I don't know the rules without reading the rule book. And so now I know them. And so now I can have a standard to live by. How do I know that God's speaking to me through a dream or through whatever? I have to be in his word. I pointed there, I thought it was the Bible. It's not. I have to be in his word or else it is just my voice. Yeah. Like if it's not impacted by my prayer life or my worship time or my being around God's people time, then this is me talking. I don't know. It literally just has to be me then, because what else could be talking? I mean, there's nothing else giving me information. It's what makes me feel good. It's what I think is going to make me turn out the best. It's what's going to make my situation better. How's it going to impact my family? Yeah. Like all those things are like me. And now if I want to twist that and say, God told me to do that. I mean, people do that all the time. So yeah, that's a very hard thing. How do I know it's not just my own personal desires and God's telling me these things? You trust that God gives you the desires of your heart. And so you just say, like, if that's a desire of my heart, then God put it there. I trust that my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts, says the Lord of hosts. So if I'm thinking about something and thinking it should be different than the way that God is obviously leading my life, then that's my thinking. Yeah. Like, because God's is bigger.
Yeah.
And I think about this all the time as the pastor. Like, I'm down about whatever, whether it's attendance, whether it's about finances, whether it's about how do we just get more people excited about what we're doing. And the whole time God's working his own thing, but I'm upset about whatever I've told myself should be the answer. And it's a growth and learning to trust God, like whatever he's doing, like you said, however he's speaking, that it's him doing it, as long as we're following his will and trying to chase after his things, studying his word. And then we know. Like, how do you know what God's will is? I don't know. You live it, you walk it, and then 5 months down the road, you go back like, oh,
there it is.
There was God's will.
Yeah.
Like, before I met Sandy, like the 5 months leading up to her and Nara coming here, God, I'm praying for a worship leader. God, Steve is awesome, and we love him, and he loves me. But God, me and him both know that's not the future. God, show us who it is. And then people just start coming into your life, and you're like, oh, well, that was God's will. They just kind of came through, and we were aware. You got to be aware. You got to know God. You got to be alert to what he was doing. Like I said today in the sermon, like, you always have to constantly be aware of your surroundings and alert to what's going on. You're going to miss like a big thing of God, because he's always working. He's never like taking the day off.
Definitely.
Every day he's drawing you into something, but you have to be aware. You got to know him. You got to be alert. And then you got to just be in tune with who he's put you around. Yeah. I wouldn't be as prone to listen to you if I didn't care about you. True. I wouldn't be prone to listen to Sandy if I didn't care about her and think that like her point is valid. And so I have to be around people that I think are worthy, that can invest in me. I can invest in them. We can grow. Iron sharpening iron, one man sharpens another, those type of things. And then in the midst of all that is how I hear from God. Like, it just somehow comes through all that, and we get to a position like, oh yeah, God told us to do it that way. We've done several things, Sandy and I together, bingo nights or pickleball things or whatever. Like, did we know they were going to be successful and people would like them? No, but for God prompted something in her spirit, and she said, hey, we should do this. And I said, okay, if God said it, let's try it. And if it's successful, then I have to believe God made it happen. Exactly. Right? Things we tried and it didn't, well, maybe that was us. Maybe we put too much of us in it. And so, yeah, discerning God's voice from my voice.
It's a challenge. That's the only way. You explained it perfectly. I mean,
just want to get the big bucks.
If you're not, well, fair enough. Good point on that one. If you're not in the rule book, how can you know the rules, like you said? If you're not constantly in communication with them, how can you say, well, me and God talk? Well, when the last time you picked up the phone and talked to him? Yeah. And I mean, that's prayer, that's worship. I mean, it looks like different things for everybody. But like you said, I think it's hard to discern God, and when it ain't God, it's obvious. Everybody say, when it ain't God, it's them. Bottom line, I don't care who you are. Yeah. Nobody's above you, and insert your name. Yeah. Outside of God. And if you're not listening to God, I mean, I ain't listening to Russell when it comes. This is my life,
which I wouldn't expect you to.
Right? I mean, in all honesty, this is my life. Why would I listen to Russell? But at the same time, you got to be able to say, okay, all right, that was my thought. That was Emmanuel's thoughts. Yeah, that was all Emmanuel's ideas, and that's why it failed Emmanuel's way. Yeah, and that's when I feel you should go back. Okay. I heard you. I heard a whisper, but I ignored it because my voice was louder. And I think that's when it's like, okay, well, God's voice, like you said, sometimes isn't. It's like you should go left.
The scripture says you should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Is that relatively close to what it says, right? So quick to listen. Like, we have to, more listening on the part of a Christian, I think, is like primo. Like, we just should all just listen more.
That's why we got 2 ears and 1 mouth.
I heard somebody say that today.
I hate that saying.
I hate it too, and I didn't even know it until like a couple weeks back. I was like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And so as we're quick to listen and slow to speak, I think that we have more opportunity to hear God and not try to throw out an answer. Yeah. For our friends and everyone in general, like everyone included, if you come to me with a problem, like I said this morning, people come to me all the time like, Pastor, what should I do? I don't know. Right. Like, you know what I mean? I have no idea. This is what God says. Yeah. Like, this is what his word says when you're dealing with stress or anxiety or a relationship or whatever. And where's your relationship with God? Like, where are you? You're asking God for help, but do you know him? Have you called him? Like you said, have you talked to him? All those kind of things play into, this all goes together. Yeah. And so it's interesting to think about how people hear from him. Any other thoughts, Miss Sandy? No,
That was good.
Any other thoughts, producer? No, she says nothing. So, yeah, hearing from God is essential, like to growth as a Christian, because God's going to give you tasks that are God-sized tasks, like I said this morning, and the only way He's going to give them to you is if you're listening for it. Yeah. God is constantly at work in all of our lives. He is constantly molding and shaping us into who. I thought that was. This is just like Russell talking here, but I thought the way I ended this sermon today, I don't know where it came from. It was like a God thing speaking. Like when life is hard, ask God. When life is difficult, do this, God. But when life is easy, like we're probably in His presence, because life is never easy in this part right here. It's always hard, and it's constant relying on Him for every bit of it. And if we don't know how to discern from God's voice to the person beside me that's trying just to motivate me or to motivate their own life, then we're going to get led astray. And when we get led astray, our hopes and our aspirations and all that, they get put into a person or a thing or an idea or an ideology, all that, and then we get let down. And then here we go on this cycle now, the cyclical cycle that we talked about before. Y'all looked it up, right?
I did look it up.
Thank you. All right. So I'm pretty much 2 for 2 on hard words that we've talked about.
What were we coming up with this week?
Nothing. Don't do that to me.
He said, nah, 2 for 2. We're sticking with that.
And so it's just like this cycle of things that happen, and we're part of the wheel that keeps spinning. And so it's important for us, I think, that when God does speak to us, being the believers, being the church, that we share that. Like God said this, and this is how He said it. Because I think people... Like I told you last week, when I hear pastors say, this check just randomly showed up in the mail, I immediately go, yeah, right. I'm not listening to anything else he has to say, because, that doesn't happen.
Lies.
But then it happened to me. So I was like, oh, okay, it does happen. Like, because it happens. Like, it literally happened. So when I hear pastors saying, God spoke and He said this, I'm like, yeah, right. Like, you spoke and you might have said, you know what I mean? Like, how do you know God said that? But now that I'm in this position, and, like, you're called to lead and come out and encourage people and answer the question, Pastor, what do I do? I better be in tune with what God says. Like, I better know, God did tell us to do this. Because if He didn't, and you're following me.
We are all going down the wrong direction.
Exactly. And so you gotta be on it. And so God does speak. I agree with Emmanuel. God is definitely in the miracle business. It's up to us to be content with the way He works out miracles. There's victory on the other side of everything we're dealing with. God's word promised. Wherever our feet step, He said in Joshua, His feet have gone before us, and there's victory. And so we can go into whatever situation knowing that God is speaking and God is working and God is moving amongst His people. And what He's looking for us is, the Scripture says that God's eyes are searching to and fro for someone's heart that's surrendered to Him and obedient to Him. And that's what we're trying to be at this church and in this podcast and in our own lives. And so hopefully this word encourages you. Hopefully you can take it into your job place. And today, just be quiet. Stop talking so much. Shut your mouth. Listen to God. Everybody don't want to know your opinion. You heard me? Talking to you. You, the person that's like, they ain't talking to me. I'm talking to you. We don't need to hear your opinion. Yeah, we don't need to hear it. We've all heard it.
And we're tired of it. I'll add that part.
But we appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe. What'd you say, Amen? Smash
that like button.
Smash that. Share with your friends and family.
Yes, please.
Get the word out there. There's enough in the world that's dirty and dark, and they're working full speed ahead to get their message out there. And so help us get the message of the good news out there. And if you're ever in Jonesboro, Georgia, and want to visit us 10:45 Sunday mornings, we would love to have you worship with us Wednesday night, 6:30, or just come by the office and say hi to me and Sandy. We always like meeting people. We want to be the salt and light God put us in this community to be. We want to add flavor to it, and we want to help preserve it. And so if God puts us there, we want to be Salt Bay of Clayton County. So like, subscribe. We love you guys. Appreciate it. Any advice? Advice is a strong word. Any comments, concerns, or critiques?
Please.
What's the positive critique? Constructive criticism. Yeah, no critiques. We want constructive criticism. If it's about the sound and your name's Danny, keep it to yourself. We love you, D. All right, God bless. Y'all have a good evening.